can't you say?
Mama, can't you say?
What this army's done to me?
What this army's done to me?
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Whoa, whoa,
whoa,
whoa,
whoa, whoa,
whoa, whoa.
They took away my faded jeans.
They took away my faded jeans.
And gave me all this army green.
Gave me all this army green.
They took away my faded chains.
They took away my faded jeans.
And gave me all this army green.
Gave me all this army green.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
whoa, whoa,
Whoa, whoa,
whoa,
whoa, whoa.
Ain't no use in looking down.
Ain't no use in looking down.
Ain't no discharge on the ground.
Ain't no discharge on the ground.
Ain't no use in looking down.
Ain't no use in looking down.
Ain't no discharge on the ground.
Ain't no discharge on the ground.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Whoa, whoa,
whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. Ain't no use in looking back.
Ain't no use in looking back.
Jody's got your Cadillac.
Jody's got your Cadillac.
Ain't no use in looking back.
Ain't no use in looking back.
Jody's got your Cadillac.
Jody's got your Cadillac.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Whoa, whoa,
whoa, whoa,
whoa,
whoa,
whoa, whoa.
Ain't no use in looking down.
Ain't no use in looking down.
Ain't no discharge on the ground.
Ain't no discharge on the ground.
Ain't no use in looking down.
Ain't no use in looking down.
Ain't no discharge on the ground.
Ain't no discharge on the ground.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Whoa, whoa,
whoa, whoa,
whoa,
whoa,
whoa.
Here we go again.
Here we go again.
Same old stuff again.
Same old stuff again.
Marching down the avenue.
Marching down the avenue.
8 more weeks and we'll be through.
8 more weeks and we'll be through.
I'll be glad and so will you.
I'll be glad and so will you.
I won't have to look at you.
I won't have to look at you.
Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Are we weak, strong?
We're strong.
Sound off.
1, 2,
Sound off.
3, 4.
Okay, let's count.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Go left, go left, go left, go left. Count, K, skip, K's the leg, K's count.
1.
Mighty soldier,
2.
you better do your best
3.
before you find my foot.
4.
Place down in your chest.
1,
Connect,
2.
get up,
3.
we cover,
4.
break down.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We love it here. We love it back at home. What? A home. What? A home. A home away from home.
Left, go left, go left, right on left, go left, right on left, go left, 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 got 'em right, whoo, left, 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 right on left, left, go left, left, top, right, forward. You'll get a line and I'll get a pole.
Honey, honey,
We'll go down in the crowded hole.
baby, baby.
You get a line and
I'll get a hole. We'll go down to the crowded hole. Honey, oh baby mine.
left, 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 toe, third, four, left, 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 toe, third, four. I hear the choppers coming.
I hear the choppers coming.
They're hovering overhead.
They're hovering overhead.
They come to get the wounded.
They come to get the wounded.
They come to get the dead.
They come to get the dead.
A ranger. My buddy's in the foxhole.
My buddy's in the foxhole.
He's bleeding from the head.
He's bleeding from the head.
The medics say he's sleeping.
The medics say he's sleeping.
But I know that he's dead. marching down the avenue.
Marching down the avenue.
8 more weeks and we'll be through.
8 more weeks and we'll be through.
I'll be glad and so will you.
I'll be glad and so will you.
I won't have to look at you.
I won't have to look at you.
Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Are we weak, strong?
We're strong.
Sound off.
1, 2,
Sound off.
3, 4.
Okay, let's count.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Go left, go left, go left, go left. Count, case, skip, case, the leg, case, count.
1,
Mighty soldier,
2,
you better do your best
3,
before you find my foot.
4,
Place down in your chest.
1,
Connect,
2,
get up,
3,
we cover,
4,
break down.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We love it here. We love it back at home. A home, a home, a home away from home.
Left, go left, go left, right on left, go left, right on left, go left, 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 got 'em right, woo, left, 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 right on left, left, go left, left, top, right, foot, you'll get a line and I'll get a pole. We'll go down in the crowded hole. You get a line and I'll get a pole. Left, 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 toe, third, four, left, 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 toe, third, four. Whoa, soldier,
Whoa, soldiers,
combat soldier.
combat soldiers.
Pick up your weapon and follow me.
Pick up your weapon and follow me.
I am the infantry.
I am the infantry.
82nd,
82nd,
pat you on my shoulder.
pat you on my shoulder.
Pick up your shoot and follow me.
Pick up your shoot and follow me.
Airborne infantry.
Airborne infantry.
All I ever want be.
All I ever want to be.
Airborne infantry.
Airborne infantry.
101.
For the ones
Screaming eagles.
screaming eagles.
Pick up your ropes and follow me.
Pick up your rocks and follow me.
Go on the rope, infantry.
Road infantry.
75th. Scroll on my shoulder.
On my shoulder.
Pick up your ropes and follow me.
Pick up your rocks and follow me.
Airborne infantry.
Airborne infantry.
All I ever want be.
All I ever want to be.
Airborne infantry.
Airborne infantry.
Whoa, soldier.
Whoa, soldiers.
Combat soldier.
Combat soldiers.
Pick up your weapon and follow me.
Pick up your weapon and follow me.
I am the infantry.
I am the infantry.
82nd.
82nd.
Pat you on my shoulder.
Pat you on my shoulder.
Pick up your shoot and follow me.
Pick up your shoot and follow me.
Airborne infantry.
Airborne infantry.
All I ever want be.
All I ever want to be.
Airborne infantry.
Airborne infantry.
101.
For the ones
Screaming eagles.
screaming eagles.
Pick up your ropes and follow me.
Pick up your rocks and follow me.
Go on the rope, infantry.
Road infantry.
75th. Scroll on my shoulder.
On my shoulder.
Pick up your ropes and follow me.
Pick up your rocks and follow me.
Airborne
Ready? Good afternoon, everyone. Look at this big crowd for our final Kindred Spirits of the fall semester. Let's clap it up for all of us. Woo! And what a special day it is, right, to celebrate and recognize Veterans Day. So before I turn it over to our speaker today, Jeff Gallegos, who has changed the topic to an original badass, I do want to make a couple announcements. Tonight, we are also having a veterans dinner, and that dinner will be in Vistas, right over there above by the football field. Vistas from 6 to 8. Everyone is invited, so I hope that you all will come on over there as well to celebrate veterans. There's also a list of community events the Valley Courier has put out for this weekend as well. But I'm going to let Jeff handle his own introductions. And thank you so much for your service and for our last Kindred Spirits.
Hello, everybody. Thanks again for coming to listen to me run my mouth again this semester. I am more than honored to be here and to speak about something that's very near and dear to my heart. If I can just take a quick count, how many veterans have we got in the audience today? We got any veterans? Awesome. Thank you all for your service. Any active duty or reserve in the audience today? No? Okay, cool. Well, again, my name is Jeff Gallegos. I am a one-stop student services advisor, also a veteran of the United States Army. I served from 1992 after I got out of high school, and I stayed up until 99 on active duty, and I finished reserve in 2000. So if you kind of think about that, that was the Clinton era. When I was in basic training, we elected President Clinton. By the time I got out, we elected President George Bush. So ultimately, all of my time in service, I served during peacetime. So that's kind of where I'm gearing some of the things that I'll talk to you about. Another thing that I'd like to call attention to is I'd like to welcome our online community. If we've got a lot of people that are visiting us today online, it is being streamed live on YouTube, and you can restream it again later. Like, follow, and share. Thank you very much. I put on here, I was a combat medical specialist, AKA a medic during my time. Just wanted to send a shout out. Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, Space Force, National Guard, Marine, anybody that's in uniform that previously served, thank you for your service. The struggle is real. But a lot of times I might bring it up when I'm talking today is if you weren't there, you kind of might not understand a lot of the goofiness or the craziness that I'm going to talk about today. Kind of my pedigree. In higher education, we talk a lot about our degrees. In the military, I think we talk more along the lines of where have we been? What's your rank? What were you doing at that particular time? I signed up in May of 1992, almost through no fault of my, well, I can't say through no fault of my own. I got myself in a bunch of legal trouble, and it was like, you know what, Gallegos? You can go ahead and go to prison, or you can go to the military, or you can go to college. I wasn't college material at that time, so I chose the Army over everything. Actually, the Army kind of chose me. The other branches wouldn't let me in because I raised so much hell when I was a kid. Had to get waivers to get into the Army. I went to basic training on 16 September 1992 in Fort Knox, Kentucky. I was in one of the last rotations that went through that basic training section before they integrated women into basic training for men and women. I went through with one of the last. 2 months without seeing another woman at that age was kind of crazy. Right after that, I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas. If I was to leave the San Luis Valley, that's directly where I'd go, is San Antonio, Fort Sam. Got my 91B training, 91 Bravo we called it. That's where I learned how to be a combat medic. Following that, I went to the 2nd Infantry Division in Korea. Funny story with that one, since I served during the Clinton era and he cut back a whole bunch of military spending. I was initially scheduled to get stationed at Fort Ord in California and go light infantry. They closed the base, didn't have anywhere to send me, so I wound up on the DMZ. It was a great time. Following that, after I did that, second ID, I went to Lister Army Hospital It is the Aeromedical Center on Fort Rucker, Alabama, where they train all the helicopter pilots. Anything they call them rotor wings comes off of Fort Rucker, Alabama. That was in the 90s, and that was 90 miles from Panama City Beach, Florida, so essentially it turned into a big party. Following that, I re-enlisted in June 1996. I did another tour with the United States Army. Went to the Pentagon, so I finished up my last part working in the travel medicine clinic. DeLorenzo Army Health Clinic is what we called it. Finished up active duty in June of 99. Finished up my individual ready reserve on 15 September 2000, almost exactly a year to the day, right before 9/11 happened. My girlfriend at the time talked me from going back in. She just kind of kept me from going to war. I guess it was a bit of a blessing because now I get to be here with you. But that's where I come from with a lot of the different things that I talk about. Some of the things that I would like to also speak to is the culture and the DEI of military, being that I'm one of the representatives here with the Equity Board, fighting that big fight. Before I started the war, being a warrior for equity and justice, I was just a straight up warrior in the Army. The way that we talk about culture, the way we talk about inclusion and equity, if you're a soldier, if you're serving, you're all equally useless. You're all a bunch of maggots, damn it. That's equity. Everybody is equally hated or equally useless. When you're active duty, it also means that if you're a private, you're going to constantly be actively employed. So you've always got to be doing something. Always, always, always. I remember one time we were in Kentucky and it started raining. And so we're all marching around in the rain, and then we were sitting around waiting for something to happen. And out comes the sergeant. Okay, you guys, you need to be actively employed right now. So he put us out in a big pile of rocks and made us dry them. Had to dry all the rain off the rocks. We are actively employed. With the physical training equals behavioral health. That's something that I think about every single second of my life practically, just because it's kind of funny. Everything is a push-up. If you do anything wrong, your punishment is a push-up. But an Army push-up isn't just one push-up. To count as one push-up, it's 4 counts. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 2. However you go. And sometimes it's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. And they just keep you going. You're going to do push-ups until I get tired. The behavioral health part of it, you have to thank your sergeant. Thank you for conditioning my body and my mind. And that's what I think about all the time, like, oh my gosh. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thinking about that, at the time it was miserable. I put pictures up here of the day I got pinned with my PFC rank. I was stationed in Camp Stanton, Korea at that time. You got Captain Welch there. He's pinning on my collar with my PFC rank. Followed by that, the sergeant that's standing right next to him in front of me threw me in the big puddle. I had to go in there and condition my body and my mind. I was a permanent puddle that was just always out there in the airstrip that we were stationed on in Camp Stanton. I'll never forget it. Smelled terrible. Essentially, it was a swamp. Think about the acronyms that we use a lot regularly, things like SNAFU or FUBAR. You think of some of the movies you might hear those in. I think of Saving Private Ryan with the FUBAR part. A lot of times you hear, oh, it's just a snafu. Well, as always, everything is always screwed up. Situation normal, all fouled up. FUBAR, fouled up beyond all recognition, to clean that one up a little bit. There's just an acronym for everything. I think about our culture with the language and the slang that we used. I'm hoping that it's still used in this day and age. I'm not too sure. But no matter what set of combat skills you have, no matter where you're going, what enemy are you going to fight, one of the biggest enemies that you will have is Jody. Jody rules everything. Anybody know about Jody? Nice. Jody is the guy that's going to steal your girl while you're off at war. So it's always the biggest worry. Oh, here comes Jody. Jody's going to get your girl. So if you ever hear anybody, that's the first thing that goes through my head when I hear Jody is like, oh, man, somebody's going to come and steal my girl. We think about pogues and shammers. A pogue is somebody who just sits around and doesn't dry his rocks. He just hangs out all the time. He doesn't do anything. Versus a shammer, which was more of somebody like me, who knows how to always look busy, but really not be doing much of anything. Just shamming, you know. Walk around with a Post-it note. Hey, man, I'm busy. thinking about one of the things that we use a lot. I learned something interesting here, and I haven't fact-checked it, so I don't know how true it is. But as an Army soldier, whenever somebody asks something, to make sure that you understand the typical response is, huh? Hey, what are you up to today? Are you ready to go? Huh, drill sergeant? I read that it stands for heard, understood, acknowledged. I don't know how true it is, but that might be something new since my time. You'll hear things like who shot is another confirmation that you understand. Who shot that short round? It's something that comes out of artillery companies that I've learned of. And if you're in the Marine Corps, usually it's a hoorah, depending on how you're doing it. Hoorah or hoorah, however you want to do it. Took a little while also. One of those things about culturally getting used to when I got out is you go into your unit and it's the morning time, afternoon, whatever. Your first thing you say is, good morning, ladies. But out here it's more like, good morning, ladies. You have to adjust yourself. It was just a lot of fun, a really good experience within the military. Some of the other great stories that I would like to share with you, something that happens to me every single day when I get to work, is thinking about when I'm walking up. You've got your deuce and a half, we called it a 2.5 ton truck, and you've got, I've got a picture of the aid station that we were in, but it's a Kwanzaa hut. Is kind of how we lived when I was stationed in that line unit. Coming back to now, whenever I am walking up, I usually walk into the student union building along that back door to one stop where the trucks and the delivery vehicles all parked there, so they stay parked there idling. Their diesel fuel is burning, so you got the smell of that diesel fuel in the air. Sodexo is over here cooking breakfast, so you smell breakfast being cooked. And whenever that wafting smell hits me, I feel like a soldier all over again. It's like walking up and half of the soldiers are PMCSing their vehicles and all the cooks are in there cooking breakfast. It's just one of those really, really, really good memories that I love. Happens to me every single day. And then I walk in the building, and even better, every day smells like the first day of school. I love it. That's one of my favorite parts about working at Adams State. The other memory that I wanted to share with you, and my team will probably start rolling their eyes like, oh God, here he goes again, is the Turtle Soldier. Has anybody ever heard of the Turtle Soldier from the 2nd Infantry Division? This is something that I think of all the time whenever somebody in the mess hall or in the kitchen happens to drop something and just hear a big old crash, glasses breaking, plates flying, trays slamming, whatever it might be. Well, you take your Kwanzaa hut. When you get to the 2nd Infantry Division on Camp Stanton in South Korea, there's a big compound, and they call it the Turtle Farm. The reason that they call it the Turtle Farm is because it's for all the new soldiers checking in to the 2nd Infantry Division to get their assignment. And you get there, and you've got a Kwanzaa hut on this side, in processing, and you've got a Kwanzaa hut on this side, out processing, and there is a sidewalk that goes through. So you're there all sad, you just got to Korea carrying all your equipment, going into in processing, and everywhere that you're going for the rest of your pretty much tour of duty in Korea, you're always hearing, turtle! You're in there, you're having lunch or dinner or whatever in the mess hall, somebody drops a glass, and you just hear the crash. And you turn and look, and it's that nervous new guy just checked in the 2nd Infantry Division. And he looks like, sorry guys. And all that you hear is the whole mess hall yells out, turtle! Well, sometimes that happens, and everybody is in there eating, and you hear it, crash! Turtle! You turn around and look, and it's that guy that's there on his very last day, just clowning everybody else. He drops his glass, he drops his tray, he makes the biggest noise. Everybody turns and looks and like, oh, it's just him. He's leaving this bastard. Damn it. I still got 360 days left to go in this asshole. But no, but why do they say turtle? So what you've got with your turtle farm, in processing, out processing, your sidewalk, it takes you 12 months to go from in processing across this little 3-foot sidewalk to out processing. As slow as a turtle, it takes you a year from the time you get there to the time you get out. You are a turtle. It's just one of my favorite memories that I think of, especially when I hear those big old crashes that happen out there. So just a little piece of some of the things that you might think of when you walk by the one stop and see me there looking kind of confused. It has to do with that. I'd like to talk to everybody today about the Congressional Medal of Honor, maybe throw out there a few little facts and tell a great story about this one. The Congressional Medal of Honor, I think we all know, is the highest military honor through the United States military and armed forces. It's offered or awarded to soldiers, Marines, sailors, whomever they might be, space cadets perhaps, just for bravery, valorous service in combat and active warfare. As of currently, today, there was 3,516 Congressional Medals of Honor that have been awarded to our folks, either posthumously or that might still be living. Of those 3,516, 4 of them are actually from Pueblo. I was intrigued to find out about that. And there is only one woman that has ever been awarded the Medal of Honor. Dr. Mary Edwards Walker, she was a colonel and she was a Civil War surgeon. I haven't read into her story yet, but I'd like to find out more about how she received her Medal of Honor. It sounds interesting. In particular, coming from the medical field myself, I'd like to see how much ass she had to kick to get that. Here's the meat and potatoes that I'd like to talk to you guys about. Is Master Sergeant Raul Roy Benavidez. He is a Congressional Medal of Honor, U.S. Army Special Forces Green Beret. A couple of pictures of him earlier from his career in 1960s while he was in Vietnam, still a military policeman. And also after or prior to his retirement, after he was pinned with his Medal of Honor. The original American badass. I'm going to tell you his story. It's mind-blowing. Calling attention to that, it almost made me cry when I received the email this morning. I'd like to send a shout out to Alex Harris over here from the Adams State University mailroom. He has been so kind to allow us to take a look at one of his collectibles here. Turns out he's a G.I. Joe collector, and he has the commemorative G.I. Joe Classic Collection Edition that was issued with Sergeant Benavidez. Just talking about that, I'm getting a little choked up here. Thank you, Alex, for sharing that with us. Feel free to come by and take a look and try to avoid handling it if at all possible, just to keep it from losing any value or causing any problems with it. What you're going to find with Master Sergeant Benavidez, he was born in Cuero, Texas in 1935. Salvador and Teresa were his parents, them being sharecroppers, so that automatically kind of flags in my mind as saying these people didn't have any money. They're like the rest of us, mostly coming from somewhere poor and broke. After he kind of got through, he became a general laborer, migrant worker, working the fields and the farms, just traveling around trying to earn a buck, up until 1952 when he joined the Texas National Guard. I couldn't find any information specifically about it, but he served during the Korean conflict, but I don't know if he was in combat or if he stayed stateside or what his tour of duty there in Korea, but it did fall right there within that combat era. After that, he went active duty instead of being National Guard and Reserve, active duty in 1955. He got married to his wife for the rest of his life. Hilaria Benavidez is her name. Following by that, he got into the 82nd Airborne and became a military policeman. So he was a pretty highly trained soldier even before he went Special Forces. In particular, thinking 82nd Airborne, that's jump school. That's where folks go out there and start learning how to be airborne, jumping out of a perfectly good aircraft with the nylon parachute. 1965, he was assigned to the 25th Infantry Tigers. Thinking about that, it's almost like if you were to compare it with the Adams State Grizzlies. In the Army, we have our own, thinking the 2nd Infantry Division Warriors. Everybody kind of has their little team icon, I guess you might say. His were the Tigers. Within that, he got assigned to military advisor to the ARVN. If you watch a lot of Vietnam movies, you'll hear that spoken of quite a bit with the ARVN is the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. So you hear them talking about ARVN rifles and platoon. It's the Army of the Republic of Vietnam. In January 1966, he was assigned to Tam Khai. It is in the Quang Nong province. Looking on the map, you can see that it's kind of in the northeastern corner of the country there. Kind of jungle, kind of ocean, little bit of river in there, so it was a very swampy place to be when he was assigned to that. In January of 66, so I'm assuming it was also probably pretty cold out there in the wintertime, he went out there on a solo mission by himself. There was suspected espionage going on. He wanted to go and take a look and see what was happening, see if he could go on a covert patrol operation by himself. He stepped on a landmine. He blew off the right side of his, well, didn't blow it off, but he blew up enough that he wound up in Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Again, one of my favorite places in Brooke Army Hospital. Doctors there told him that he would never walk again. Say, you know, you're finished, we're going to retire you, unless you can prove to me that you can get up and walk out of this room. So the man spent endless hours in the evenings and in the night just giving himself his own physical therapy. You know, a little bit at a time, he would move his toes. And then he'd figure out how to wiggle his feet. And then he'd figure out how to wiggle his legs up until he got himself where he walked up out of that hospital room. That is strength for you right there. That's being stubborn as Jeff Gallegos, I tell you. But yeah, he got up and walked out on his own. In July of 1966, they sent him back to 82nd Airborne. That's the patch that you'll see on their shoulders up there in the top right-hand corner. Fort Bragg, North Carolina is where he got assigned, home of the airborne. Apparently, I just learned they just changed the name to Fort Liberty. So it's no longer Fort Bragg out in North Carolina, now Fort Liberty. Year later, he got into the U.S. Special Forces, the Studies and Observation Group. If everybody's familiar with the soldiers that wear the green beret, that's what Special Forces are. If you hear them addressed as that green beret, that's what they are. They are specialists in guerrilla and unconventional warfare, if that tells you anything. Essentially, they're sent out there just to go kick ass, to kill things, to blow things up, as well as studies and observe everything else as well. It's a heck of a thing to be able to do. Very high honor to have that. He was assigned to the 5th Special Forces Group in 1965, and in 1968 got assigned as a military advisor in Loc Ninh, Vietnam. Conflict I found here once again while I was doing my research with all this is some of the information that you're going to find is it was Loc Ninh, Cambodia versus Loc Ninh, Vietnam. And if you're familiar with some of the history with that, that was part of the problem when they were talking about the Ho Chi Minh Trail, where the North Vietnamese were essentially importing all their supplies, all their equipment for war, cut right through Cambodia, and I think that might be where the controversy and the confusion might be with it. So either it was Loc Ninh, Vietnam, or perhaps Cambodia that he was in. On that day, on May 2nd, 1968, Master Sergeant Benavidez was attending Catholic Mass. After he got out of his Mass, I don't know, thinking of the way that I feel when I get out of a church service, I feel pretty strong. You know, I feel like I can take on the world. I feel like I can do some things. He turns around and heard that there was a radio transmission coming in with a group of soldiers that was out there, about a squad of soldiers. 3 of them were Navy Special Forces. Forgive me if I mispronounce this, but 9 of them were 9 Vietnamese montagnards, I think I pronounced it, essentially named by the French that were out there. They were the Vietnamese guerrilla warriors. They were the mountain men that were out there kind of fighting the good fight against the North Vietnamese. And the other one that's out there that I wanted to tell you about that you hear in your movies, you'll hear about the NVA, or you hear about the VC, the North Vietnamese Army, and you'll hear about the Viet Cong. North Vietnamese Army were the actual uniformed army of northern Vietnam, versus your Viet Cong were the guerrilla warriors that were out there fighting the fight in the jungles. So they were the special forces group, essentially, of Vietnam. 9 Montagnards, 3 U.S. Special Forces, got overrun by a battalion. 1,000 North Vietnamese troops came up over them and just started blowing the heck out of them, started killing them, just started taking names. Kind of a sad situation. Well, over here you've got Sergeant Benavidez, who wasn't going to put up with this. So he decided that he was going to go extract his teammates, his soldiers. Didn't necessarily have to. Probably was advised not to, because there had already been 3 unsuccessful attempts at extracting. So he took a 4th one. He was like, I'll go ahead and I'm going to give this a shot. So he jumped in a helicopter, didn't take a weapon with him. All he took was a Bowie knife and a medical aid bag. Wasn't sure what he was going to get himself into with that. As soon as he got up there, he noticed that everybody was under fire and they couldn't land the aircraft. So he pulled them out 75 meters, about 3/4 of a football field away from the line of fire where all the action was happening, and jumped out of the helicopter, got himself out there, and automatically sustained a leg wound from a AK-47 and took grenade shrapnel to the face and to his head. So immediately he started getting beat up. But he kept on going. He wasn't going to let his fellow soldiers go through and get overrun anymore. When he did get there over to the site, he assumed command and started reorganizing these troops that are out there, probably in a panic. There was only a dozen of them, as it were. And he got them to organize themselves. He got all the wounded loaded, and the dead as well. But he started getting them to fight back towards 1,000 Vietnamese soldiers. Offering suppressive fire himself, he started trying to get everybody loaded, and he sustained an abdominal wound. Sounds like it was probably from another AK-47 machine gun that he took, but he kept on going, followed by another grenade that he took shrapnel to his back and his shoulders. But he got up, and he kept fighting. He grabbed one of the AK-47s from one of the Montagnards, and he started helping out with that. Well, in the meantime, the second aircraft that was flying in, that second fixed-wing helicopter, came down. The pilot of that one was killed in action, so that helicopter automatically crashed. It just went down right there into the jungle. Once that chopper crashed, he started pulling out all the surviving members that had just been loaded into that helicopter. He had to reorganize them, get them rearmed with more equipment, blown up and beat up that they already were, and he got them back in the fight once again so he could start doing more of what he needed to do to get his crew out of there. So he radioed in an airstrike. He called in back past the lines, got some jets coming in with some napalm, got some combat helicopters out there with missiles and machine guns. And then he started recovering a lot more of those casualties and getting them in to that third helicopter that was coming again. And one more time he got wounded, he got shot. So here we are. He's trying his very best to extract all these soldiers and the Montagnards to get them out of that field. And we got to the final moments. So it's this third and pretty much his last chance at that military helicopter. It's coming through. It finally started to land. Right behind that, when he started loading everybody up, more of the North Korean soldiers came up and they busted his jaw, hit him in the face with the butt of an AK-47 machine gun. Another one went through and they just stuck him with the bayonet. So one more injury to tag on to what he was already going through. Thinking about this like a medic and doing that initial evaluation, I can just see how this man must have looked. He must have been terrifying. And if you're this enemy that's attacking this ground troop, and you see this man that is just taking a beating, but he still keeps going, you know that enemy had to be scared. They were already scared of Americans, as it were. And then you see Master Sergeant Benavidez come running at you, and he won't quit fighting. That's got to be a scary thing to think about. But after that, you know, he got clubbed in the jaw. He got it with the bayonet. He turned around and pulled out his Bowie knife, and he killed everybody. He just started killing people like that. You know, he didn't have any other way to do it, so he killed 2 of those soldiers. The 2 NVA that you see up there, well, rather not see up there, but thinking about, they were coming up from an angle. I couldn't see exactly how it said, but they were coming up from an angle that they were trying to get around that helicopter without getting shot up by the 50 caliber machine gun. He went out there and neutralized those 2 as well, him and his Bowie knife. He went and killed them, saved that pilot. He saved the pilot, and that third aircraft eventually made it out of there. They all got out. When they extracted him finally, he was the last one to leave that battle scene, that battleground, and he was barely conscious. He could barely walk. He was blinded from things that were in his face. And essentially the medic called it. He said, this guy is dead. We're going to go ahead and tie his toe, and we're going to stick him in this body bag and call it a war. He wasn't having that. He wasn't having that at all. He was still alive. He was still conscious. You just couldn't tell. So he spit at the medic. He just spit at the medic. I'm not dead yet. He couldn't talk, but that was his only way to let them realize I'm not dead yet. Don't count me out yet. So they continued on their way, and the battle was over, and it was an interesting story to be told. This was the count, finally. I put on there as the red badges of courage. For those of us that know, that red badge of courage in the military is your battle wounds, your battle scars. Thinking of the blood that comes out when you're injured. He had 33 bullet wounds when he got out of this mess. 33 bullet wounds from an AK-47. If you've ever seen the exit wound from an AK-47, it's not pretty. Even the entrance wound on those things isn't very nice to look at. He got fragged 2 times. If you understand what it means to get fragged, it's fragmented. It's when somebody throws a grenade, boom, fragments go everywhere. Somebody just got fragged. Oh God, they just fragged the commander. That's another one of those terms that we use out there. Taking 2 grenades. That's insane. He got wounded by a bayonet by that one NVA soldier that comes up and shanked him. He had a busted jaw, and he was blinded by all the blood that was in his eye. So that's the price that he paid for rescuing those soldiers, all of whom, doesn't sound like too many people probably lived out of this battle. More to come on that. Medals and awards that he got for that, the second highest award for bravery, the Distinguished Service Cross, up there on the left. He only came out of this thing with 4 Purple Hearts, which is a little confusing. I don't know how they may have balanced that out. Maybe they just ran out of room on his chest. But Purple Heart is what they award to soldiers who have been injured in combat. They gave him 4 of them out of, 37 different injuries that he has there. As most soldiers, he probably didn't care. It's just a medal. It's just a piece. But it's honorable, ultimately. But he was more concerned about his buddies, about his fellow soldiers. Just like you hear all the time, they don't do it for America. We don't fight these battles for freedom. We do it for the guy that's standing right there next to us to make sure that my buddy is not going to get hurt or killed. And that's where Master Sergeant Benavidez went at this with. He didn't want anybody to die on his watch, whether he was armed or not. He was going to save some lives. But he was awarded his medals. A little while later, he was evacuated back to one of my favorite places, Fort Sam Houston, Texas, where he did live. He recovered from all of his injuries. He got through all that and kind of survived. I'd like to see what his mental state might have been after all that. But 1969, assigned to Fort Riley, Kansas, out there kind of in the middle of nowhere. He was doing a lot of different military stuff, probably a lot of desk duty is what he was doing out in Fort Riley. He earned his GED, followed by a college degree, so that became something that was very important, and I think important to all of us to be thinking of something like that. 72, year I was born, he got assigned to Fort Sam Houston, Texas once again, up until he retired in 1976. And all of this is going on in his foreground where a lot of activity was happening in the background. They had an issue when it came to the discussion of issuing him, or awarding rather, his Congressional Medal of Honor. One of the problems, there were no surviving members of that battle that were able to witness and come back and tell the story of Master Sergeant Benavidez and this hell that he went through for 6 hours. He was still nominated by Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Drake, telling the story, saying, look, President, we've got to give this man the Medal of Honor. Here's what his story is. They denied it specifically because there was no living person that could tell that story. Also with that one, he had to appeal it from that initial denial, and he was denied again. So it went through 2 different trials before they finally were able to award what they needed to, because they found Sergeant Brian O'Connor. Brian O'Connor was his radio man on this mission. He got blown to shit too. He just got beat up. But he lived. He survived the whole ordeal, and he was one of the other survivors besides Master Sergeant Benavidez, who went through. And he was living at that time in Australia. He had already been discharged from the military and was living in Australia. But when he read the story and he saw what was going on with Master Sergeant Benavidez, he was like, hey, I'm still alive. Let me tell this story. Through his witness, they were able to go ahead and upgrade his Distinguished Service Cross up to the Congressional Medal of Honor, which he received that on February 24th of 1981. It was awarded to him by President Ronald Reagan, who also tasked him to intervene with the youth of America and relay the importance of education. Get yourself educated so you don't have to go get yourself blown all the shit for some recognition, Harrowing story, a very harrowing story with Master Sergeant Benavidez. Through my studies and my travels and everything when I was looking into this, I was looking around and I can't yet find anybody that's related to Master Sergeant Benavidez, but it sounds like a lot of people are very familiar with this story. If you're not familiar with it and you're tired of listening to me run my mouth, there are a lot of really great videos. There's a couple of different movies about Master Sergeant Benavidez. Sadly, they haven't put him in the Congressional Medal of Honor special that's on Netflix. They don't have a section for him yet, but hopefully that will be coming. That's where he's buried. He was lucky to get buried in Fort Sam Houston back in San Antonio. There is his grave marker right there. His wife, Hilaria, is buried right next to him with a memorial as well. Whenever you think about something like that, a soldier goes off to war, the family is serving right there next to him, just as worried, just as scared. So they allowed his wife to be buried next to him in that nice cemetery over there. I got an image up there of the U.S. Army Congressional Medal of Honor, which is similar to what they would have awarded to him. You'll notice on a lot of times you'll see these Congressional Medal of Honor soldiers that have it around their neck. When they might not be wearing it, they also have a ribbon that goes through to cover it. And with every additional, sometimes it's a maple leaf, sometimes it's a star. It just means something that they've earned this award twice. My stepdad served in Vietnam. He earned 2 Bronze Stars for bravery. He was probably one of the toughest men I ever knew. I wish I could have been as tough as that guy. But it means a lot to a lot of soldiers that serve, but at the same time, it's just a piece of metal that really doesn't equivalent to much. But it's a huge honor, and I honor Master Sergeant Benavidez today. Excuse me. Couple of quick notes on here as we're going, kind of ending this up. I wanted to put this up because I post this almost every Veterans Day on my social media. If you want to thank a soldier, be the kind of American worth fighting for. Be good to your fellow Americans. Don't spread hate. Tell the stories of your family. One of the coolest parts about being a veteran, I have something in common with everybody. Pretty much anybody that I come in contact with, even just today. Oh, I heard you're doing this. My uncle served, oh man, my dad was in Korea. Oh man, when I was young, I served, I have something in common with everybody as a veteran. It's one of the most amazing things. So make sure you go out there and you thank the veterans in your life. And remember that the old man that shuffles around town with the Vietnam hat on was one time more badass than you will ever be. You'll ever be. I think of that all the time because that's how my stepdad was. He's just old and grouchy and pissed off all the time. But questions? Yes.
Estimado Gallegos, I just wanted to take a moment to say every time I talk to you and hear you in your presentation, I have so much esteem for you. And I'm so proud that I get to
Thank you.
everybody, I say, got one stop in the whole one-stop crew is awesome. But I just want to go talk to Gallegos over there and let me know what fix it for you. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
I have a question, but I know we're going to wrap up pretty quick. My question is, I would like to know more about the history, because you're just one of many men and women from this San Luis Valley who have served, and fortunately you produce more people who serve out of this valley and other parts of the country, right? I'd like to know more about how the VFW and different veteran groups in the valley are doing what they're up to next. And it doesn't have to be now, but I think maybe a future presentation would be really cool.
Sure. We can probably get that information for you. That's not a problem. One of the things I thought to promote as well, now that you bring that up, one of the activities that's going on is they're doing some fundraising to establish a Veterans Memorial over at the city and county buildings there south of town. I've got information about that at my desk. Again, there's the dinner tonight for veterans. It sounds like everybody is welcome to attend. Might not be a bad idea to stop and ask some of them to find out too. But I'll also find out for you. I'll shoot you an email with that too. Thank you. It's my honor. Joe.
We share the same How in the world can we be friends and we're also 91 Alphas? Aerosol,
Bravo.
Aerosol qualified, tough stuff that I went through in my youth. I was 20 years old. I was going to save the world. I was going to become my father's son. I honored him by doing that. When I met Jeff, I thought, wow, what a blessing. You don't see us in too many places, but where do we find two 91 Alphas? Here at Adams State. I wear these out of
He's older than
proudness,
me.
very respectful to Jeff. I honor you, brother. Thanks, Jeff.
Likewise, brother. Shout out. Any other questions, comments, suggestions? Yes, sir.
So I did a little bit of research into the different special forces groups. What special forces group was Sergeant Benavidez part of?
Special Forces Group, he was in
Yeah.
the 5th.
Okay.
5th Special Forces, the SOG, Studies and Observation Group. 5th Special Forces Studies and Observation Group.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Linda?
How long have they been awarding that Medal of Honor?
I don't know that answer, but I would say since 1776, because there was a number of Congressional Medal of Honors that were awarded during the Revolutionary War. So it's somewhere around there. We've been kicking ass since 1776, is what I remember in my head. Anyone else?
Jeff, just to follow up on the Congressional Medal of Honor deal, you guys ever go to Pueblo? Check it out. 4 out of Pueblo.
Yes, 4 out of Pueblo. The museum for that is in Pueblo as well, right? The museum for Congressional Medal of Honor, it is in Pueblo, Colorado. Oh, one more thing, if we got some time here. Raise your hand if you know what the truck is. What is the truck?
Right here. Double dude. Deuce and a half.
It is the ball on top of the flagpole on the main base. What's inside the truck?
Well, as legend has it, the truck contains one match.
Let's do it this way.
Yeah. As legend has it, the truck contains one match and one bullet. And the match is for if the base is overrun and you are making your last stand at that flagpole, that match is for burning all sensitive documents that you happen to have with you. And the bullet is for you if you have no chance of getting out of that situation. The truck, military people don't call trucks like civilians do. We call it a deuce and a half.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Give it a name. There's many variations on that. So if you didn't hear what that is, when you go for a military promotion, you have to go before a board of your peers. And sometimes the questions are trick questions. Soldier, what is a truck? Sergeant, the truck is the ball that sits on top of the flagpole. Soldier, what is inside of that truck? Speaking to you, but I've heard a different variation. Sergeant, in the truck, there's a 9mm weapon. There is a full clip. There is a razor blade. And there is a Zippo lighter. Soldier, what are these items for? Sergeant, in the event the base is overrun, I will take down the United States flag. With the razor blade, I will cut out the stars and protect them. With the match or with the lighter, I will burn all classified documents. I will burn the stripes from the flag. Soldier, what are you going to do with the 9mm in the magazine? Sergeant, I will take out as many weapons as I can up to the last bullet, for which I will take my own life. Thank you, everybody. I did leave some printouts on there. Now that it's the holiday season, if you look, I was going to read it to you, but I can't do it without crying, so feel free to take a read over that. Make copies, share it. That's one of the ways that a soldier feels. Thank you all for your time, everybody.